Welcome back to part 4 of a 4-part series on the Jewish idea of meditation. Now, tonight we're going to speak about some practical, at least examples, of some concepts where to start when meditating. And again, I would like to recommend after the class for all who want many books in English that a person can read, not only read in a cursory way, but read in a very thorough way and think it through. And the more a person thinks through a Hasidic discourse or some insight to the spiritual aspects, the soul of the Torah, the more it will enhance our meditative abilities. What's interesting in Chabad history, the Chabad Rebbeim, the Rebbes of Chabad, oftentimes in the past would recommend to their students, to their followers, that when they're learning a discourse, they shouldn't learn the discourse one time, shouldn't learn it twice, 3 times, but 20 times, 40 times, 60 times, the same discourse. So you think, well, so many the same time, the same one? Because the way they explained it was that when you learn a mimer, a discourse, 40 times, 60 times, when you walk outside on the street, you don't even see a world anymore. You're living with the mimer, you're living with the discourse. You're living with the spirituality. It becomes so ingrained in your system, so a part of your being. The understanding that comes through going through it and thinking about it 60 times, time after time, each time becoming deeper into the system and deeper into the system, that when a person leaves their house, not all in one day, it's a long day. When the person leaves their house, the world is a different world. So the first thing we're going to try and think about, at least we're going to try and give a practical example about how it's. We say that Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. God is one. Everything is godliness. Everything is an expression of Hashem. The world, all existence is an expression of Hashem. So a person says to themselves, when I look out, I see a world. I see walls, I see buildings, I see streets, I see cars. I see people. Many people. Where's the oneness? How can there be a lot and oneness at the same time? So let's think about it for a second. And the very practical approach is actually also a scientific approach. If you were to tell somebody 1,000 years ago that everything in the universe, all matter that exists, is made up of energy. Physical energy. They say, you're out of your mind. What are you talking about? You're telling me that that there's energy going through the floor, there's energy going through this jacket, there's energy going through this podium. It's all the same? They're different things. We know that that's a fact. So one interesting exercise to do is to imagine yourself putting on glasses that are at the same time a microscope and taking it back and back and back. Think about it like this. Look at the world around you. And think about the world that you live in. And imagine you take a pair of glasses that magnifies everything 1,000 times. So when I put on these glasses and I see the world outside, I see a world that's magnified 1,000 times. Everything is magnified 1,000 times. So when I'm looking through these glasses, I'm seeing really a different world. Let's say that 1,000 times is enough to see the world on a molecular level. So when I look through my glasses that are so zoomed into everything that it sees everything on a molecular level as molecules, what I'm seeing is a completely different world. Now, which world is real? Is it my original world, or is it the world that I'm looking through with my molecule glasses? They're both real. They're both equally real. Now I take those glasses off, I'd put on new glasses that magnify 1,000,000 times. So I looked, and now I see everything on an atomic level. Whoa! An even different world. So which world is the right world? The world that I know? The world where I see people, and I see cars, and I see streets, and I see buildings? Or the world where all I see is atoms? Atoms just floating all around. They're both real. And I take those glasses off and I put on ones that magnify it 1,000,000,000 times. And all I see is energy. Energy. So which world is the real world? The world where when I'm looking through the glasses and all I see is energy, a oneness? Or is it this world where there's many different things going on? They're both real. They're both simultaneously real. The closest way, or just one example of how we can approach the idea of a oneness in creation is this method. Break it all down. Take the world that we know, break it down to molecular level, break it down to atomic level, subatomic, quarks, all the way down till you get to energy. Scientists look for, and the more that they're looking, the more they're finding the oneness of the universe, how everything is interrelated and connected. Let's talk about a second meditation. We discussed last time that the goal in Jewish meditation was that a person should arouse a fear, not a fear in the sense like you're running from Freddy Krueger, but a fear in the sense of awe, of reverence, towards God. I got an email a few months ago. One of the ways in which a person is recommended to grow their awe and reverence of God is through thinking about His greatness. I got an email a few months ago. The gist of it was nothing to do with God or spirituality, but it has a very key element that is something that we can kind of think about in our day when we want to take a few minutes and think about things. The email was called Power of 10. It looked at the world through the power of 10. For example, it took someone's backyard, okay, had 10 yards by 10 yards, 30 feet by 30 feet, 10 yards by 10 yards. And the caption, it was an aerial view of someone's backyard, and the caption at the top said 10 to the first power, meaning 10 yards by 10 yards. Fine. Then the next picture that came up was 10 to the 2, which would be 100 yards by 100 yards. It was not only the backyard, but it was, a good section of the neighborhood. The next picture came up, it was labeled 10 to the 3rd. So not only do you have the backyard and you have a good sum of the neighborhood, but you have 1,000 yards by 1,000 yards, you got a good chunk of the community over there. And 10 to the 4th was the next picture. Until soon you weren't just seeing, you went to the community, and then you went and you could see the whole county, you could see the whole state, you could see the whole country, the whole world. And then they kept going higher, right? 10 to the 6th, 10 to the 7th, 10 to the 8th. And so now the world, and then we were backtracking even further. We could see the world and some of the other planets. And then you backtrack even further, you see the whole solar system. And it was backtracked even further, you see the whole galaxy. And then you back it up even 10 to the this, and keep going further, and then you saw multiple galaxies together. And then it went to 10 to the 26th power, where it looked almost like blank space with little dots, and each of those little dots were a galaxy. The vastness of the universe, the tremendous creation of Hashem as contained even in the visible universe, is enough to be awe-inspiring if a person thinks about it. This same email went the opposite direction as well. It said 10 to the 1, right, the backyard. Then it went 10 to the -1, right? And then you zoomed into a blade of grass. And then 10 to the negative 2. You went and you were in the details of the grass. Until you got down and down and down. And the last picture, 10 to the negative 26, or whatever it was, what looked basically like the grand picture. It was mostly empty space with a few dots. Each of those dots were atoms. The greatness of knowing that Hashem, that God, is constantly bringing into existence every atom in the universe at every moment is enough for a person to just jump out of their seat in an awe-inspired way. Learning a discourse that discusses the grandeur of Hashem in this context over and over, the awe becomes more and more over time instilled in the person. The person doesn't want to do something that they shouldn't do because the awe of Hashem is real. It's part of their existence. So how does the love develop? Where does the love come from? I understand. I think about this idea. It's grow, and Hashem is big, and He's controlling. Every little atom is controlled by Hashem. The idea is that despite the fact that Hashem is so big, so to speak, and manipulating all these galaxies, and bringing everything into existence at every single moment, in charge of a lot of stuff, He wants to have a personal connection with each and every one of you. To think about this, the King of Kings, the one who brings into existence everything at every moment. When you think about the vastness of the universe and what's taking place, He says that each one of you have an importance. Each one of you are special and wants to be connected with each and every one of you. Most of us, when we think of God, we think, oh, God is infinite, right? God's infinite. That's true. But most of us, when we think about it, we think God is infinitely big. We just think about God as this really big spiritual force. Well, infinite doesn't only mean infinitely big. Infinite also means infinitely small. Many people ask the question, does God really care what I'm eating for lunch? He cares if I keep kosher? These are His laws? He cares? Let Him go fiddle with the galaxies. He's running the whole universe. He really cares if I'm going to light candles at 7:20 and not 7:24? These little details, God is infinite. Not only infinitely big, but infinitely small. Infinitely palatable and personal to every person's life. A part of your life and wants to be even more so. So these ideas, these concepts, these spiritual principles discussed extensively in the Chassidic discourses are recommended that everybody who has any inkling, any desire whatsoever to grow in their meditation, to grow in enhancing their connection with God and with spirituality, is recommended to learn some new books, to study some discourses. And not only study it, but think about it. And then go back and learn it again. So through this new knowledge, through this new understanding, we should meditate on it. Should go home, think about some of the ideas that we've talked about tonight and through the last classes, and make it a part of our life, make it a part of who we are, and there enhance our connection with Hashem.